Today on Tag Lab, we are so excited to have Monique Ruff-Bell, Chief Programme and Strategy Officer at TED. She leads TED's global events and programmes, as well as brand partnerships, and drives loads of growth and innovation across the whole company. I've had the pleasure of knowing Monique for almost a decade, and I really admire her ability to bring teams together, build their confidence, and authentically create an inclusive community with diverse voices front and centre. I'm really excited to showcase the inspiration behind the why, but also some of the how so that people can take action straight away after today's episode. Enjoy. So, Monique, ideas change everything is the slogan at TED. How do your team identify and select the topics and the speakers that resonate with a global audience?
Well, a lot of people don't know that we have a full-time curation team. Their job is to go out and find speakers to give amazing TED Talks. And so to invest in a team that is their duty day in and day out is an investment, but it has paid off for us because we've had so many wonderful and amazing speakers on our platform. But also because of our TEDx licensing program. So that is a program where we have people who volunteer to host TED events in their city, in their region. We've found amazing speakers, or we're able to platform amazing speakers that we probably would have never seen before, because we're a small and mighty group, but small. And to know that we do over 3,000 plus TEDx events globally, and these volunteers go out and find these amazing speakers have also helped to enhance our storytelling platform. Finding, Brene Brown was found through a TEDx talk, not a TED flagship talk. So there's so many stories like that of it didn't come through our curation. It came from a local licensee volunteers curation of just finding and platforming amazing speakers. So we're all about ideas change everything, because it really does. That spark of inspiration, of motivation, of a particular idea can change the trajectory of society, technology, entertainment, design. It could change any and everything. And sometimes it's really about people being inspired by things they never thought they would be inspired by, right? So you sit there and you're listening to a TED Talk of a topic you never even thought about, and you sit there for 18 minutes listening to this because you are pulled in by the storytelling. And so to give people this type of platform and this type of outlet to kind of learn and grow and to have a place where their curiosity can fester is great.
Yeah, I love that. And I think everyone can pinpoint those really special TED Talks that have brought something to them. And I wonder if you can share what's been one of your most memorable or most exciting TED Talks that you've listened to that really sparked something in you that you didn't see coming.
I think the one that I talk about literally all the time is Reshma Sujani's talk, Teach Girls Bravery, Not Perfection. And the reason why that stands out for me in particular is because I see a lot of women in business who could be even further dim their light because of perfectionism. And it really kind of comes back to how you are raised to be nice and liked and make sure everything, everyone feels collaborative. And when it comes to men, sometimes they're taught risk and bravery and taking chances. And don't worry if you don't have 100% of something on your list. And I kind of see that even when I'm interviewing candidates, I can see that difference. And so it's really about what I really liked about that talk. It reminds me to step into my authenticity of I feel very confident in what I do. I've shown that I do a really good job in the field that I'm in, and I belong in the rooms that I get access to. And so even many, many years in my career, 24 years within events, I still sometimes have to remind myself in these, you've seen the speakers, you've seen kind of where I get to kind of have access to, or even speaking to our partners and CEOs and chairmen of different things. I have to remind myself that, yes, it is a pleasure to be in their presence, but it's a pleasure for them to be in mine too.
I love that. And I love the clip of Reshma talking about being sandwiched, I think, between Bill Gates and Warren Buffett at some conference. And she's like, these guys, like I can run round circles around all of these guys, not necessarily Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, but she'd been in every room and every single meeting and all of these kind of top people that you would imagine in business. And she was like, me and my girls, we can run around these guys. So yeah, I love that confidence. And I think we absolutely need to see more of that. And I wonder then that leads us into your leadership style, because I really have seen the impact that you have on your team. A lot of them are women, and the confidence that you're building and that authentic voice and bringing their whole selves to work. And I wonder if you can talk a little bit about the principles that shape your leadership and really what you're aspiring to do now that you're in such a senior role.
I think the number one thing that I really go in is starting with trust. And so that's really like there's not there's not a bone in my body that I have any interest in micromanaging anybody, right? And so that's really kind of where people need to kind of learn how to build confidence, is when they have autonomy. And so for me, I really kind of structure around: you are hired, you are here for a reason, you have value. And until you show me the opposite of something, I'm going in 100% trusting that you are going to figure out, accomplish goals, hit our ROI, and I'm there to support your growth, and I'm there to support and help you through challenges. And so, really, kind of working together in a collaborative way with my leaders and my team members is my number one thing that I do. And so that's very different from some leaders who might say, I have to tell you how to do it and you needed to do it my way because my way is the right way. I believe there's various ways to get to Main Street. That's my big saying. Like, you could take a left here, you could take a right here, and they all lead to Main Street. And as long as we're getting to Main Street, that's what I care about. So I don't have to have the control over all of the tactics. You might know best. You're living in this way more than I am from the details. And so kind of giving autonomy, giving stretch goals. That's another thing that I work with my leadership, is like, yes, these are your roles and responsibilities, but where are you trying to get to? Tell me about that. Let's talk about that. And what can I help you with in regards to additional responsibilities or roles that will help you get to that stretch goal? And so really kind of listening and understanding my team members, understanding the type of growth they're looking for, figuring out how I can be helpful in plugging into that growth. That's another thing. And so when they're seeing that they're growing and they're doing more and they have more autonomy and they get to make decisions and they get to feel proud about something they delivered where they've led that 100%, builds character and confidence. And so, that's kind of what I'm seeing is, I like to say, I let go, let God. And like, they're going to figure it out. And when the challenges come, they're going to plug me in and I'm going to help them through it. But so far, it has worked and my team is phenomenal. And, one of the things I always say is I always wanted to be a leader of high performing teams. And thus far, in multiple roles, I have been able to do that.
Yeah, I love that style. And I completely agree. I think so often you've got an idea in your head of, oh, this is, what we think we're going to do. And the team come back with, no, this is how we're going to do it. And you're like, I didn't even see that because you're so far removed. So you're constantly amazed by just how incredible the team are. And I think you only get that by optimizing for agency, is one of my favorite sayings. So I'm always like, okay, how do we empower people? And often it does go wrong, stuff's going to go wrong, but that's how you learn, and that's how you've learned and I've learned, is when things go wrong, you have to figure it out. And so often the person knows what to do and they're just kind of checking the solution with you, which is how they grow.
I'm all about, anytime I join teams, I put it on the table. I'm about the 80-20 rule. 80% is going to be fantastic. We're going to knock it out of the park. And 20% might end up, not being the best. And we're going to just learn from it and grow and become bigger and better from that 20%. And the shoulders drop when they hear that, because that means like, oh, I'm allowed to make mistakes, or I'm allowed to take risks, or I'm allowed to try something. And if it doesn't work, I won't lose my job because of that. Now,
Oh,
there's
totally.
processes and frameworks that I put in place to make sure that we are able to take that risk.
Yeah.
And that if it doesn't work out in our favor, we can bounce back from whatever that is. So there is a process for that. But I do want that because innovation, we have to keep year over year topping ourselves, not
Yeah.
worrying about our competitors or anything like that, but surprising and delighting our community and our audience takes innovation and takes risk taking. And so you have to build a team that's all right and comfortable in doing that. And so that is another thing that I think is really important into leadership is giving your team space to try things and not think you have to do something over and over and over because if you keep doing something, eventually it's going to get worn out and you're going to die in the vine. And so we're always thinking about how do we keep moving forward? How do we keep surprising and delighting? How we keep topping everything? Even when you saw like at Big Ted, I posted about our closing party and we did a live circus for that. The year before that, we did a house party where we built a house to scale and hosted a house party at our event. So people didn't think we could even top anything like that. And then to kind of do this circus thing. And then next year, we already have our phenomenal idea for next year. Like it was all about competing with ourselves and being innovative. And so that's why I think you have to kind of give your team space to think outside of the box and give them permission to know if it doesn't work out, that's okay.
Yeah, I think that's hugely empowering and also lends itself to those stretch goals as well, because we're going to shoot for the moon. And if we get part of the way there, that's actually fine. We're all really happy with that. And we've learned a bunch along the way. So I think it's always striking that balance between the stretch goal and too much for someone and trying to figure out where that line is. Yeah, I love that. And how do you then, so I think it's really clear on how do you build that trust from a leadership perspective. How do you get your teams to all really trust each other? Is anything that you do? Because I think that's really where creativity comes from, is when we all feel safe and we feel like we belong and we take those risks. And how do you build that in amongst the team as well?
It really does start from the top and building a culture. And so, I'm very conscious of building the right type of culture within my teams. I don't tolerate being a bully, being mean, being disrespectful, being, not helpful or anything like that. And I say that you know where you stand when you come and join this team. Like there is no gray areas. There is some very clear boundaries and things that are just not acceptable when you join this team. I don't care how frustrated you are or whatever. Go feel your feelings somewhere else, but don't take it out on everyone else. And so that's what I like to say. And so those are basically the foundations of building a culture. And then the next part of building the culture is what more do you want to see? And so, kind of giving your team instructions on how to be more collaborative and giving them space and opportunities to see each other, to be collaborative, to be a problem solver. So, in one of my, my monthly meetings, I always say, if this meeting can be an email, we're not having the meeting. And so, if you're going to have a meeting, it should be a solution oriented, we're trying to solve for something type of meeting. And so that means everybody, I don't care if you're just in customer service to you work AV or anything like that, everybody participates in the solution oriented meeting. So it's taking what are some of the big problems we're trying to solve for this particular event or as a department as a whole, and breaking them up in smaller groups, no more than 5 to 6, and doing these breakouts where everybody kind of gets to contribute to ideas, bringing those ideas together as a group, and all of us voting on the best ideas. So everybody gets to see them, everybody gets to have a vote and a say, and then finding people who want to kind of lead on executing these ideas. It does not have to be your role or your responsibility, but it gives you an opportunity to enhance your project management and leadership skills. So you might sit in a different department that has nothing to do with operations and logistics, but you're leading what I call a big bet problem. And you're trying to kind of figure out how, as a team, we're going to solve that. And so this gives outlets to our teams to showcase I'm serious about collaboration. I'm serious about innovation. I'm serious about how we come together and figure out things together. I'm serious that I value your opinion. I'm serious that I value your ideas and your thoughts. They see all of that in action. And so then that makes them want to do that individually with their own team members and who they're participating and leading with. So it's all about starting from the top, leading with action, communicating clearly what type of culture you're looking for, and making sure when there's smoke signals that culture is not happening, you kind of nip it in the bud and you start having conversations to try to clear that up.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent framework. And also, that in itself builds trust in the team because we're not wasting anyone's time. We're not having meetings that run late and go on tangents. Like, we're all responsible for coming up with a solution and we're all here to hear each other. And I think that also just gives everybody a voice in the team, because I think when everyone just comes and the problem's there, everyone starts talking, or some would kind of defer to whoever the resident expert is or whoever's the loudest voice, and actually bringing those solutions, it feels like you're starting on a much more equal foot. So I think you
And
need the culture
I don't
and the
know
tools.
everything.
Oh, of
Yeah, and I
course.
don't know
Yeah.
everything, right? So you're more in the weeds of things than I am. So I can come up with a suggestion or idea, but you might have a different spin because you know more of the intricacies of that, right? So that's why I value the collaboration and getting the information and giving people opportunity to kind of feed into something, because I do not profess to be the all knowing, all seeing leader of anything. What I do know is I can provide clarity and direction. I can help us figure out how we're going to get to solve a problem, but I need more than just my brain. More brains is better than one to solve that problem.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that leads us on to our diversity of thought and how important that is to any community. And I feel it's just your authentic leadership style is creating that diversity and inclusion. How does TED ensure there's always a diverse range of voices and perspectives that are represented? Is that from the curation team? Is it who applies? Can you talk a little bit around the process there?
It comes from several different ways. We are a global platform, so everything can't be American based. Everything can't look just one way. We have billions and billions of views on our TED Talks videos from all over the world. So we have to cater to a global audience. Diversity and inclusion is number one in order to do that. We wouldn't have been able to grow unless we were able to do that and to showcase that. So you really have to kind of start with the audience you are appealing to, who are part of your community, and making sure that you're serving them. So that's always a very conscious and top of mind for us in everything that we do. And we even care about even the back end of things and how we get certain vendors and partners or whatever, and making sure those are coming from diverse experiences. So we care about that across the board. And it's just so important. There's no way you can have global growth without serving a global community. And so that means there's different
Right.
languages, that's different experiences, that's people who are doing different and amazing things. And so we really have to be conscious of that, or we wouldn't be able to grow. We wouldn't be able to appeal to everyone that we appeal to if we didn't have that in mind.
Yeah, no, I love it. And I think, you guys are doing those things, having events, testing them all across the world. So you really reach every corner of that community and that audience and that user base and build the right type of content that resonates with them. So yeah, it just feels like who you are, which is amazing. And recently I saw that you hit 20 million subscribers on TED Ed. Can you talk a little bit about that milestone and how it feels to build a community for education on that scale and the responsibility and opportunity there?
Oh, it's one of the things I'm just most excited about, is to have how TED is growing up with someone, right? And so you engage with TED as an adolescent in school. Usually we have, a million educators, millions of students who view our animations, and just to know that we are able to take information and put it in an age appropriate way for people to really kind of engage with that is just very important. TED has grown to be more than just a TED Talk. And I know a lot of people just know us from TED Talks, but we plug into education, we plug into work in organizations, we plug into training, speaker training and master classes. We plug into partnerships. We plug into several different things that go beyond just a TED Talk. And so when we think about the education sector, it is the foundation of curiosity. It is, and we always say we're the playground for the curious. So this is the foundation for curiosity, is education, is starting with the adolescents. So kind of giving this platform for people to engage with information in a fun way, right? It's not just someone talking to you like a teacher, like with their animations, and really kind of learning something. And sometimes you're not even really realizing you're learning something because you're just
Yeah.
like so engrossed in this wonderful animation that is made. So it was a concerted effort. It was a priority to make sure that we start with children and the foundation of learning and education, and then growing them up. So then once you come from TED Ed, then you're going to be in your local area and you might decide, I want to see what a TEDx event is all about. Let me go to what's happening in TEDx. And then you grow up and you might say, I want to go to a bigger flagship conference. That's TED Next. And then you might say, oh, I'm now feeding into society differently. I want to go to the big Vancouver conference. So we're growing people up through their entire lives as a place to have your curiosity nourished. And so it doesn't matter if you're in grade school, and it doesn't matter if you're in retirement. TED has something for everyone.
Yeah, that's so inspirational. And I'm interested, how do you measure success in those ways? So it's a global community, you reach every corner, you have all these different products and different areas of the brand now that feeds into different ways and different kind of times in people's lives. How do you measure that success and that impact over such a long period of time?
Well, of course, we care about people engaging with us with our TED Talks. So, we give all of that away for on our platforms, whether you come to TED.com or you come to YouTube. So the engagement, the views, the comments, all of that stuff matters to us. We measure how many people want to host TED events, TEDx events licensing. So growing that licensee community is very important to us. How many educators do we bring into our network? How many educators are using our tools for teaching in schools? That matters to us. How many businesses are wanting to partner with us and align with our brand? How many businesses want to host their own TED events within their organizations and really care about TED Talks? How many people are coming to our conferences? How many people are buying tickets? How many people are referring others to TED? There's a myriad of ways that we measure success in various different areas for us, but we measure success outside of just views.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I thought, that there was lots of different ways to measure that kind of lifetime value and all of those different interactions. So I didn't know businesses could host their own TED events. That's our TEDx events. That's new information for me. So definitely something that we will look at, because I can see the impact. And when people start talking about TED, there's such care for the brand and such impact that it has, and everyone wants to share their experiences. So I think bringing that into business, bringing that education, creates that real inspiration and mission driven feeling within companies. So learn something new. And you do a huge amount with a smaller team, a small but mighty team that you mentioned. How do you surmount those challenges when you're in a small team? You've spoken a little bit about the framework in terms of problem solving. How do you keep everyone aligned around the missions when you've got so many different products and things to do with not as big a team as I think people would imagine sometimes?
Well, I'm used to working on small and mighty teams, as you know, from some previous roles that we worked together in. It is all about prioritization and it's all about vision. And so it's really about, you can't do it all and you can't do it all at once. And so when we set our strategy and our goals at the beginning of the year, especially on my team, everyone has to submit a strategy deck. So everyone has to submit what they want to lean into for the entire year. And then I feed back on, yes, that makes sense, asking a lot of questions. Maybe we need to pivot or whatever. So I give the leaders the opportunity to come to me and say, I really want to lean into this. I understand the larger organizational vision that we're trying to lean into, as reporting into the CEO, being part of the executive board in the organization. And so I have to match those things together and kind of really work with the leaders. And so once we agree that these are the things that are our priorities for the year, that's what we stick with. And I know you have to be flexible and sometimes you have to pivot for certain things. But our main goal is what we discuss and what we need to do to hit the vision, the milestones, the KPIs we're trying to get to within that year and beyond. Because you have to have a longer term vision and your strategy has to feed into that vision. And you can't just think about, oh, we did this last year, we got to do it again. No, 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 because things have changed from a visionary perspective. And so we have those conversations. We actually put tactics together. We actually put plans together. Everyone has to present that. And then I share it with anyone in the org who wants to see it. So they understand everything that we're kind of focused on. So they understand our prioritizations. So if they come to the table asking something and it doesn't fit, they understand why that we might have some apprehension or we might have to figure out how we can carve more time into doing something like that. Clarity. So it's all about clarity, communicating, really digging down deep about what is the plan and what we're trying to accomplish for the year and sticking to it.
Yeah, I love that. And being consistent, because I think we can all get distracted by shiny things that come along and things that, oh, we think, oh, we should do that. And actually, you do so much less. Whereas if you just pick, okay, we're going to do 3 things, we're going to do them really well. Here's everybody's role and how we actually get there. And we're going to chase, and we're going to check up on them. So I think like sometimes you can have these huge plans at the start of the year, but actually every month or every week, okay, how we doing? And it's like, people are free to do their thing, but we need to stay accountable to what that goal is that we all said, you know, when we're full of energy at the start of the year. And actually that, like, just checking up and because I think sometimes you keep yourself really accountable. It's making sure that everyone on your team knows this is the goal and this is what we're all accountable to. And that kind of chasing, I think, does need done sometimes.
It's also not putting the plan on the shelf. And so you come up with all these wonderful plans and then you just get in true execution mode and then you never look at it again. So we actually do quarterly reviews on all of the strategy plans because we do want to see kind of how well are we doing to feed into that. Where do we need to pivot if we need to pivot, or this no longer makes sense for us? Because you don't want to keep going down the road and it stopped making sense 3 months ago and you're 6 months in. So you wasted a lot of time and a lot of money. So you have to build in certain frameworks within your team to check in on progress. And I have to be a part of those conversations. I have to understand where we are. Are we hitting certain milestones that we said we were going to hit, or do we need to just leave it alone and go on to the next one? But we also always have to build in time for flexibility, because these things that are happening in the world today, especially with technology, AI, algorithm changes, just cause all of this chaos with your business. And so you thought you were going one way, and now you have to think about how you're going to solve all these other challenges to fit the original plan. So you just always have to have that flexibility built in, that you might have to pivot and you're going to have to be okay with that, because who knows what's happening in the world tomorrow.
Yeah, I think so. And it's at such pace as well that you need to just kind of be ready to go. And then just to build on that a little bit, how do you know when it's the time to kill something off versus we just need to be really resilient and keep trying and keep trying and keep trying? Like, is there any examples you can share or any red flags you think, look, it's got to go, no amount of effort is going to make this thing work?
Yeah, absolutely. I look at it as in we have very clear KPIs on some of our plans. And so are we hitting some of those, most of those, any of those? And if we're not hitting any of those, why aren't we hitting any of those? And if it's like this is just no longer the right time from a bandwidth, revenue, cost, uh, tactical perspective, then we have to let it go, or we might have to kick it down the road, right? So sometimes I'm not letting it fully go. I'm always about phased approaches. Sometimes, something you thought was going to take a year takes 2 or 3. And so, okay, we're going to chop this down to bite-sized pieces. What can we absolutely get over the line in this year? And what could we start doing for next year? And if we have to even go further out in year 3. So you have to have short-term goals, but you also have to have long-term goals. Things take time. And so it's not that you have to automatically kill everything about something. It might be, okay, we have to chop this up a little bit further into bite-sized pieces and look at this more in a phased approach. But I look at all of those things. I look at how are we delivering on those KPIs and tactics that we said we were. How much is this costing more or less? Do we even have the space to spend more in this area? If not, maybe we have to roll back. We were too ambitious about something. Will it make the revenue we thought it would be? What's the threshold for if it's not making this, we got to let it go, or we have to think about revamping or launching that. So all of those areas are kind of what I look at when I'm deciding if we're going to continue to move forward with something or not.
Yeah. And I think that speaks to having the flexibility. Is like, okay, we tried it, didn't quite work, but we're going to reshape it a little bit. And we're going to come back 6 months later and we're maybe not going to spend as much, or we need to try this region or whatever it is. I think that is just how we continually learn. And you need to set the big goal. And it's not that it's failed. You just think, okay, we need to reshape this a little bit. And still, I find myself, I don't know if you guys do the same, that we overestimate what we can do in a really short term and underestimate over the longer term. So still we're like, yeah, we can do that in a year. And then it just takes time, but we are kind of short term creatures naturally. And it's just having that longer term approach sometimes to really build on the initial idea, because it just maybe needs a little bit of tweaking.
Absolutely.
So I saw recently that you've joined the board of the Ventures Group, which just sounds really, really interesting and something I think the industry is absolutely crying out for. So can you talk a little bit around the mission, your involvement, and what you guys are about to go do and set the world on fire with?
Yeah, I'm so excited about this launch of this new group. I previous job I was in the fintech world, so I was always around entrepreneurs and startups who were always, coming up with these amazing ideas and having access to advice and funding in a way that you really don't always see in other industries. And so, being connected to the other, like Greg from Clarion and Marco and John Weiner from Health, and, just being connected to these people in the industry and us knowing each other and having conversations individually about how we're going to continue to help further move this industry along. I'm very passionate about the events industry. I always talk about that whenever I am doing any type of interview and talk like this is such a viable, fun, outstanding career where you can grow in, you can be a business strategist, you can make money, like all of those things happen within events. And so for me to bring that passion and saying that we can further this industry in growth, but usually when a startup is kind of like chugging along and struggling and figuring out stuff or whatever, what if we can cut that down in half? What if we can be that place where they can come and really get great resources? What if they can come to a place where they have an amazing idea and they don't have to fight so hard to get investment? And there is this group that's willing to invest and see the spark and the importance of growing that event idea or that event technology. And so that wasn't happening anywhere in the events world. And so kind of being able to work with these other guys to kind of start that and launch that. And, the people who want to be members and who are like, I've always wanted to become investors and really help further the industry along. Never knew how to really do it because, these events get sold for millions of dollars to the big guys, but there's nothing to help really get them started. And so to kind of be the change we wanted to see and to create something to be helpful to the industry in that way is just super exciting and something that feeds into my passion and love for the industry.
Yeah, I completely agree. The industry is crying out for it. And I think also to have women at the level that you're at brings a completely different lens for the startups and the entrepreneurs. I think it's improved a little bit now, but it was 2%, 5% of VC funding was going to women. And because there's not enough women who are investing or making the decisions about investing, because we just see things really differently and everyone sees it from their own perspective. So I think having you there will just create a really, really exciting community, and all the other guys who have so much more success as well. It's just incredible to see you all up there. So yeah, I can't wait to see what happens next.
Yeah, I'm excited.
And actually talking about Greg, I saw him present last week at ECEF, and he had 10 predictions for the event industry from 10 years ago. And he was kind of calling himself out, like, to see how accurate he was and his predictions going forward. And he was very candid about the stuff that got right and didn't. And it was really good. And something that he said that I found really interesting in terms of the future of events is that going forward, kind of 40, maybe even 60% of our revenue will come from super fans. It's the people that really love the brand, and we create these VIP experiences, and it could be like a puppy lounge or a circus or whatever it is, but actually just really taking care of the people that love the brand. And he's always a fan of adding con, I think, to everything where you get a lot of super fans.
That's his thing.
That's his thing. He's like, add a con on, it'll do well, get the fans in. But I just wonder, and people were asking, okay, how do you get super fans to an accountancy event? He's like, well, do a puppy lounge, do this, do that. But I just wonder if you can speak a little bit to that kind of ecosystem that we might be moving towards, and what does that mean for TED or other similar brands?
I think it's really important to infuse culture into your event. I think what Greg really did well is how fanatical people are about comics and superheroes and all of, and then creating a place for them to bring that all together in person. And so when I even think about TED and we think about culture, we're not a transactional conference. You're not coming there because you're sourcing to do business. Business happens at our conference just because of the level of attendees that are there. Like, these are power hitters who are coming to a lot of these flagships. And so, of course, conversations may evolve into something like that. But you're not investing that because of you are guaranteed to do business. You're investing in yourself. And so to say, how do we create these programs that make someone want to invest in curiosity? That is, and to be able to do it so successfully, that's major. And it's because people yearn to learn. People yearn to kind of understand each other, and people want to connect, not just over a screen, but in person. I have people who've been coming to TED since 1984 who don't
Oh,
miss a
wow.
TED conference. That's how long TED has been around, and our conference has been around. And it's because they come and they find authenticity. They find people who are just as curious as them. They bump in on a coffee line and have a conversation about a speaker that might have just spoken about whales, and they have nothing to do with whales in their life, but they just loved how the storytelling unfolded for them. Some of our ticket prices are, I would say, standard to the rest of the industry. But I have a conference that's $12,500, and someone is
Yeah.
paying that price for themselves. You know what I'm saying? As an investment to themselves is major, and speaks to the fact that a yearning to learn is a cultural phenomenon for people that we were able to kind of tap into. There's events that really tap into culture in a really good way, and an experience. So I always say, people always say content is king, experience is queen. They go together.
Yeah.
You have to really kind of bring that to the table. And if you're only concentrating, like you're still doing events that were done 20, 25 years ago, you're going to become obsolete very, very soon, if not already.
Yeah, 100%. And what a story, and how much TED has actually changed people's lives. Like, I feel there's TED Talks I've watched and I'm like, that's changed my life in terms of my thinking. And to have that experience and someone coming since 1984 and it's still impacting their life is just a hugely exciting mission to be part of. So I'm going to finish just with one question that we ask everybody, and I'm interested to see how you respond. So, what is the one question that you wish more people would ask you, and what would your answer be?
Why is intention in your life so valuable? And so,
Okay.
I speak a lot about intention when it came to my career and my growth, but also I'm very intentional about living a life of joy too, outside of my career. And I think people let life happen to them. And of course, there is a level of that happens where, you never know what's going to happen in 24 hours and 15 hours and an hour. But there's also ways to set up certain things to happen and to occur for you. But it takes work, it takes intention, it takes focus, it takes clarity. And so we're so busy living lives, sometimes we don't take the step back to really think about, what do I need to align for myself to have more joy, to have the career growth, to take risk and things like that. And so for me, in 2012, when it came to my career, I got really focused on intentionally learning certain skill sets and getting access to certain rooms and being in certain places and having certain jobs and aligning myself to be able to do that. When I think about joy in my life, I get really intentional about how long I'm going to sit in anything that is tough, challenging, chaotic, or whatever. So I feel the feelings, but I also figure out how I'm going to move through that like water. And so being intentional about being conscious of that stuff, and to say, in the end, I got through it, I need to celebrate that instead of just being tired from it. And so there's just certain things that intention could really elevate your life in so many different ways. And it has been a game changer for minds. And so I really think when we think about business or in life, we need to talk more about how intention infuses into that.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And can I just ask, what are your strategies for personal or professional? Do you say, okay, here's where I want to be in 2 years, or do you have guiding principles that you live by? Anything else you can share? Because I think that would hugely be of interest, and it's of interest to me.
What I want to be known for. And so that was my foundation for how did I figure out where I wanted to go within my career. And so I said, and so I wanted to be attract certain things to me, to myself in business. And so I said, what would be attractive for that? Well, these are the three things I want to personally be known for. No matter what job I ever went to or anybody worked with me, they could always say, this is how Monique delivers. She is a business strategist and ideator. She comes up with ideas on how we can accelerate, enhance, grow something. I want it to be a revenue driver. She knows how to make money. And I want it to be a leader of high performing teams. She knows how to put great teams together to deliver amazing experiences. And so when I had those three things about what I wanted to be known for, I said, okay, how do you work backwards to show those things to other people, to give smoke signals and highlights to other people that that's what I do? And so let's say, for example, the business strategist part was, okay, well, what do companies or leaders care about? Well, in order for me to understand what they care about, I need to be in those rooms to hear how they speak and what do they need to hear and stuff like that. So how do I get access to those rooms? It all was like this winding, like unwinding something and asking myself these questions and saying, okay, I need to get access to these rooms. Who's going to give me access to these rooms? Okay, I need to start building relationships with this person, or making sure I'm a part of this committee, or I could bring certain things to the table because that's going to give me access to those rooms. Then I get to hear what they're talking about and what they like to hear. And then I'm going to get to create my language to appeal to them in that way. So it was all about kind of working backwards for all of the things I wanted to be known for. And when I got to the point where I felt like I'm known for that, I'm like, okay, how I'm going to keep accelerating this. But this has an end game for me. Like I have a part two of what I want to do that might not have anything to do with events in my life. And so I'm like, I'm going to enjoy this ride. I'm going to enjoy this growth and how I plug into the industry. But I'm also building for my part two, act two in life and what that's going to look like for myself. So I'm just always intentional about things.
Thanks for sharing that, Monique. And it sounds simple when you say it like that, but you have to be so focused on like, okay, these are my three things. And I love that. Like, okay, everyone will agree this is what Monique is like. And that is what you're like. That's how you show up and that's how you come across. And actually, like, I'm not going to do everything, but I'm going to do these three things really well. And everyone's going to agree on it. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. And yeah, have your own plan. And I think it's so true that you can do anything you want, absolutely anything, but you've got to have the plan and then put in the work to get there. And you've unpicked all the bits to unpick and had huge success. So congratulations on all your amazing success. You are just an amazing human and so fun to be around, and you do radiate joy and success and all of these good things. So thanks so much for taking the time today. We'll post all your links where everyone can find you, and have an amazing day. Thanks, Monique.
Thank you for inviting me. I had so much fun. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Tag Lab. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please make sure that you subscribe by hitting follow on whatever podcast platform you listen to so you can get the latest episode. Thanks.